I will be taking a break from competing in Tekken 8 Season 2. And no, it's not because I don't want to adapt. It's not because I don't want to deal with the stronger buffed characters in general. It's because I'm concerned about how the optimal way to win in this game will make me what I perceive to be a worse Tekken player. And I want to explain that philosophy today by showing a clip where I actually won a set. And I want to explain why this gameplay is not the kind of gameplay I'm interested in optimizing. Now, if you are interested in this gameplay, don't let this video stop you. If you're enjoying the new season, don't let me be the naysayer that discourages you, okay? This is purely personal preference. I am a big fan of the older styles of Tekken and the way the mind games layer, and grinding Season 2 in an optimal way is counterproductive to that specifically. I will show you this gameplay clip, and then I'll show you some other gameplay clips showing how the new season behaves, and why this may be less interesting to a lot of Tekken veterans. Again, if you're a newer player, don't let this stop you. Purely preference, all right? I'm going to commentate this match, and then we'll go through the notes below detailing why this is such a different way of playing Tekken, to put it lightly. I am personally not a big fan of it, but there's still, I think it's still educational. So I'm playing Steve against Eddie. I find a QCF1 heat engage, pushing him to the wall. And this is still pretty standard Steve. I'm not doing anything crazy. Nice sidestep there. It's important to note that this season really did buff sidestepping. Now, there are a lot more homing moves in exchange, but when you're just interacting with the normal set of pokes, it is actually a lot easier to sidestep things, and that shows up more in this set as well. I take game one. New string, down back, or back 1+2. And Eddie drops the combo. I mess up the back turn punish. But now I have wall position, Lionheart mix-up into guard break. He's forced to take that follow-up. He ducks my stomp, messes up his punish. He tried to do wall rising 1-3, and I got a throw instead. Hit his buttons too quickly. All right. Now, he's trying to fight his way out of the corner. I get 1-2, 1-2, and now it's a last hit situation. I do a single stomp because I don't want to get launched. And did you catch what happened there? After this stomp, I play a sidestep left and get cleanly around his down forward 1. That was pretty effortless. And I've been playing some old Tekkens recently, and it feels a lot like how Tekken used to step. Pretty reliably. So I was pretty happy with that. I get a spin 2, push him to the wall. Now we get the 5 Fox Fury, and you're going to see a lot more of this string. The new heat string is extremely strong. 5 Fox Fury, wall splat into a kill. Now, playing devil's advocate, you might think, Steve has already had QCF1. He's already been wall splatting with a safe mid. But I want to highlight how this string is much more egregious because the situation it creates on block leads to way less counterplay for the defender. And that lack of counterplay is where I personally have an issue piloting Steve in Season 2 here. All right, Lionheart 1 now wall splats and is still a homing mid. 5 Fox Fury again into wall splat. Perfect. The issue I have with this gameplay, and again I'll layer it in detail in a bit, is even though there's counterplay to one option and counterplay to the other option, they've set up the situations in such a way that anything you would do to beat option A involves dying to option B and vice versa. You are committing to only covering one option or the other, not some kind of like Venn diagram where you're mixing counterplay. It's die to one, die to the other. And the attacker will also probably die doing one or die doing the other. And that is where the reduction in complexity comes. Now here, I get a nice Steve back 1. He was minus, and I caught him mashing. But the gameplay ends here. Strong aerial tailspin into heat burst using the new combo, wall splat. Now it's time. 5 Fox Fury is a mid. I'm plus 11. This was suboptimal what I did there. I could have just gone for a regular frame trap. Messed up my punish. 5 Fox Fury wall splats and kills. And if you've seen this clip on my second channel, you know that I alt F4 at that point, neglecting to collect my ranked points because I was so unhappy with the gameplay required to get there. An analogy is a square hole gameplay. The square block goes in the square hole. The circle block goes in the circle hole. And as a joke, I boot up Street Fighter. So let's talk about why the gameplay is so problematic. And why these situations are so oppressive. I have Tekken 8 pulled up here, and let's go through these options, okay? So, 5 Fox Fury. Great new addition to Steve's toolkit. Turn up the game audio a little bit. When I'm in heat, Steve's 5 Fox Fury when I hold back to go into stance is plus 11. And at that frame disadvantage, there's no reasonable counterplay available. Even if my opponent tries to Rage Art me after 5 Foxfire, he cannot. And I'll just demonstrate that. If you don't believe me for some reason, I'll prove it. Select from punishment list. The new practice mode tools are really cool. I'm a big fan of that in the new patch. A lot of options here. 5 Fox Fury, plus 11. And I can frame trap the Rage Art. So if I pick my frame trap option, even Rage Art loses. The reason this is so oppressive, aside from that, is it just resets the guessing situation. Now that he truly has to block, at plus 11, there's not anything else he can do. I get to make him guess again. So the game plan has devolved into do the big mid, and as you saw in the clip, it can wall splat and lead to a huge combo. If I know he's going to block the big mid, I can do a low or a high into Lionheart. The stomp gives me plus 8 into the Lionheart mix. Duck forward 2 gives me plus 5 into the Lionheart mix. And up back 2 gives me plus 5 as well. Up back 2 being a homing move that will try to stop him from sidestepping off the wall. So now he truly is put in a guess situation. Do I duck and possibly eat the wall splatting plus 11 mid in order to try to get around these moves that will put me in a mix? Or do I stand block and be forced to guess again? Now let's say I fail this. I don't duck under this, and now I have to guess the Lionheart stance. The guessing is still very unfavorable. Out of this stance, Steve Lionheart 1 is a homing wall splatting mid that is minus 3. Should you choose to stand block because you don't want to get wall splatted, right? Because remember, the wall splat leads to a horrifying situation here. If I go Lionheart 1, wall splat into roughly a quarter HP, into situation again. Okay, you get the point. Lionheart 1, homing mid, minus 3 on block. Let's say that Elisa says, I don't want to get wall splatted, I'm going to stand block. Guard break, plus 6, situation repeats, right? If at any point you decide to mash, I have back 1. I also have 5 Fox Fury. Notice that 5 Fox Fury, the first hit is 16 frames, right? So anything slower than a jab after you ate this guard break is liable to be blown up by the 5 Fox Fury. So what is the counterplay to this situation? Well, if you read a Lionheart 1, your best bet is to power crush or to go for a parry. Now, Elisa doesn't have... Well, she does have a punch parry, but Elisa's power crush is her preferred option most of the time. So I'll demonstrate that here. We're going to go into Lionheart and get power crush. Now, notice that Steve was still able to block and survive the power crush. So it didn't even really get her out of that situation. I actually didn't even know that that was the case. I fully expected the power crush to hit me there. So my mind is blown. However, if you power crush, Lionheart 1 plus 2 is a guard break. Right? So the situation becomes a hard read, especially if, you know, the Steve player can actually do the combo, between stopping the safe wall splatting mid and risking this much damage or letting it happen to you on block. Right? Okay, so there's some counterplay. You can't sidestep because, again, the mid is homing. Let's say, for example, you decide to call out the Lionheart 1 plus 2 with a hard duck. I'm going to set Elisa to go for crouching block after this. So you read this, you duck, you get a launch. Nice, right? Don't forget about that. Now, a diligent labber may point out that, hey, we still have other options. What if you decide to sidestep against the Lionheart 1 plus 2, right? You don't have to commit to the duck, and you can still get around it. This should, in theory, allow you to block the mid. By the time you are able to even begin the sidestep, the Lionheart mid will catch you because it's faster. So this is the problem with the Tekken 8 Season 2 offense in particular. Every single option that Lionheart 1 would lose to Let me rephrase. Every single option that Lionheart 1+2 would lose to, Lionheart 1 will cover. And vice versa. Every option that would beat the safe homing mid, which is a power crush or a parry, right? Every option that would beat that loses to the guard break. So it's a true binary situation. You are not layering mind games. You have to pick one that you want to cover. And even though Steve dies for doing the high, the mind game is not interesting for either player. The Steve player is truly picking between, okay, do I do A, do I do B? And Elisa is picking the same thing. Let's contrast that with how interesting his old mind game used to be. QCF1. So before 5 Fox Fury was added to the game, right, the +11 mid, no matter what Elisa tries to do, I can frame trap it and lead to that. Huge damage. Steve used to play QCF1, which was still a very strong mid because it's safe. But I want to show you how much deeper it goes, okay? So the key trait about QCF1 is that it's -3. And Steve's flicker jab is 12 frames. So mind game number 1. Jab outspeeds the flicker jab. If I try to push my offense here, I get jabbed out. However, Steve can adapt. If I read that Elisa will jab me, I can punish her with a weave. Same thing here. If I go here, I can right weave and get a punish. But you just saw there, Elisa can block. Steve has to hard commit to beat this. He has to go super fast. You can't visually see the jab and then try to punish it. How does Elisa counter this? Let's go to mind game 2. Steve tries to punish the jab. Elisa can do a slow button that beats this stance, okay? So check this out. I go for QCB1, I try to weave, and she just down forward 2s me, right? I try to make a hard call out, and I get blown up. So let's say I know that Elisa wants to call out my weave or my evasive option. Let's go to mind game 3. She does the down forward 2, right? To beat me. I mash anyways and counter hit her. Awesome, right? The next option. It keeps going. It's not just A or B. We continue to layer the mind games. Mind game number 4. Opponent reads that I will go for the mash anyways, right? Instead of jabbing to check me, they play the next layer, which is duck under and launch. If I try to go for this frame trap, I get blown up for doing the flicker jab, which is a high. Now, Steve has multiple ways to deal with the duck, right? This is where it gets really cool. Say, for example, I read something's going to happen, but I don't know what. I can do my power crush, right? In this case, it's counter hitting Elisa early. I can also go for a counter hit launch myself with flicker 2, which catches the slight delay in the duck, right? Because Elisa, if she's going to counter this, she has to duck and go. There's no time to visually confirm that you ducked the flicker jab. You have to let it rip. So to punish that, Steve can land flicker 2, which is a counter hit read. And finally, let's say I don't want to commit to such a hard call out on the high. Steve also has his flicker jab extensions, which catches there. Flicker 1 down 1 and flicker 1 forward 1. So here can even convert into a combo. Now this is like a 5-step mind game. We didn't even cover every single option. Someone in the chat has been insisting, what if Elisa does down forward 4? And this is why Tekken is so cool. You have tons of options after these situations. I did not want to do a crouching punish, my fault. I didn't even realize we covered all 8, 10 punishment options. Just trying to show this one situation. Right? So down forward 4. Let's check this one out. So Elisa does down forward 4, right? I can still weave it, right? Why isn't it working? There's like a delay in when the weave gets registered. All right, so Steve can weave that, right? So the mind games keep layering, and Elisa isn't done there either. There's the homing attack, right? The homing attack stops the weave. You can tell how deep this goes, right? All off of the mid he had before. And this mid is not weak, mind you. This is a really strong mid. The fact that he has a mid that's safe in the first place that can lead to a wall splat is really strong. This is not a weak move by any means, okay? It just was not so oppressive that it led to all these mind games that could sprout from it. Remember that we're comparing this in the first place to this mid, which is so plus that it shuts down any kind of counterplay. Because plus 11 is too much to do anything else. It's too much to do anything else. And once you're standing there respecting it, he gets to go into this nonsense. Right? Hopefully that captures why I'm not interested in playing Steve. I want to develop the skills to play all these mind games and read my opponent's tendencies and translate their habits from previous situations into these situations. That's what the really good Tekken players can do. It's what I've been working on since coming from Tekken 7. I'm mostly a defensive player. I'm not really good at making these offensive mind game adaptations. If I were to play the basic way that is being provided to me, I would not get better at that. That covers that situation. If you're not convinced, that's okay. This is mostly just to explain myself and why I'm taking a break. Let's show some more oppressive situations from the patch. I'm not going to read the comment there. I'll just let the gameplay speak for itself. So we have Jin Kazama on the right. He gets a heat engage. Running 3 into stance is plus 12. So plus that there's no reasonable counterplay. So now he's able to loop the dive kick, which is a high, or the slash kick again, which is a mid, leading to a continued mix-up situation. The only counterplay the Brian player was able to find was this rage art. But this entire time, he has to guess mid or high. And he chooses to stand block, taking the chip damage, because the mid wall splat will simply end his life. To me, this gameplay is not very deep and exciting, even as the Jin player. This is a repeat of the situation, even the same player, I believe. But now he's fighting a bear who can't really sidestep either against Jin. So there's the mid, there's the mid, there's the mid, there's the mid, there's the high, there's the mid, there's the mid, there's the mid, there's the high again, mid again, and he finally got one. And this is what happens if you duck at the wrong time. He did not plug, he's just showing the replay where he decided, you know, that's enough of that. I debated not showing this because I think this is one of the most condemning clips possible, but Chai from, I believe, Oceania, put on a blindfold and had somebody narrate to him what was happening. And he was able to win with Jack.
This is so stupid.
Yeah. Okay, you blocked orbital.
Okay, plus 8, plus 8.
Yeah, keep doing that shit.
Plus 8.
Nice. Yeah, just keep doing that
2-1.
shit, man. What's he gonna fucking do?
Okay. Shaheen starts fighting back. Heat burst.
Nice heat burst. Keep going.
Plus 8. Heat dash. Plus 5.
I don't even know what the fuck's going on.
Right? And if you've been on Twitter, you've seen that the counterplay people usually prescribe is to do an armor move.
One hit, but he's got a lot of recoverables.
Jack has options there too. At the point that you would try to do an armor move, Jack can grab you. He can choose to not do the clap. He can jump, do nothing, and then grab you. He could jump, do nothing, and block. So the option you're really picking is he going to do the clap or not? There's not a real deep mind game there. It's not bulletproof. It's just not exciting. Here is Leroy showcasing his new move, Daddy King, a famous Korean content creator who is able to use the cheap stuff really effectively. What Leroy has now is sidestep 3+4, which is a +5 on block mid, which is complemented by the plus frame high. So Leroy gets started and it's mid or high. And every time it leads to a Leroy advantageous state with very difficult counterplay. Now, if you try to say power crush, like why not just power crush the mid and the high? This is a counter hit knockdown low, which he started the set with. And the low will counter hit a power crush attempt, guaranteed. This is not very interesting or deep. And finally, we have the new Brian buffs. Brian has, once he's in heat, infinite snake eyes. That's the full crouch low. That's the full crouch mid. That's the full crouch low. It's full crouch mid. He ducked for the low and ate the mid into a combo. Now, you may recall that Brian is traditionally a defensive character, known for his counter hits and the demand of him to have good defense to find these opportunities. Instead, he opens with a safe mid-mid. Yes, he had a great sidestep on the forward 4. But this situation is ridiculous. And keep in mind here, you might be thinking, why did he duck if his back is to the wall? The low hatchet kick wall splats. So by the time he's in this situation, he's guessing for his life, literally. Somebody in chat mentioned that the Jack clap is sidesteppable. That is only the Jack double clap. So I'll end the video with this demonstration because there's been a lot of attempts to kind of debunk the Jack offense here from Make Some Noise. And I think it's important to clarify why this is so annoying. So layer 1, double clap, right? This is what people are talking about is steppable. If you take the first clap, then you step the second one. But you can't step after the 2-1. That is the problem. He does 2-1, which is a high mid string. High mid string. Right? High mid, so you can't even duck the second hit. Now, they did say this is a bug. They are going to patch it out in the emergency patch, but that doesn't address how oppressive this situation is in general. Say you try to sidewalk the second clap. This is what he catches you with. So I'm going to take off the first option. Try to sidewalk. I get kicked in the head. Try to sidewalk, get kicked in the head. Well, FDX, that's a high. Why don't you just duck it? Well, remember the whole thing about this? Oh. Okay. Well, what if I power crush? So say I, as Steve, decide to try to power crush the first clap. Nice. Jack can read my power crush, and he can actually grab me. In this specific case, because of how Steve's power crush is super delayed, Jack would do this and stand block. Right? And then get his punish. Steve's power crush is a bit unique because there's a super long delay. This is how he does it. He can just block. The best option for dealing with a second clap is that. So, sorry, I meant to do a clap. This is how he deals with a power crush on the second one. He grabs you out of that. So the problem is not that none of these options have no counterplay. It's that he got this opportunity off of his jab string. Off of his jab string, he creates this very unfavorable situation where you have to guess, make a committal guess for your life. And if you are incorrect, he cashes out. If you choose to do nothing, he chips you. So this is a lose-lose situation for the defender, right? Not every character has the exact same flavor of this kind of offense, but as you saw, even Steve has these ridiculous situations, right? That are just so unfavorable that there's no reasonable counterplay against it. I've gone off many tangents on many characters. The ultimate point of this is that, yes, I could adapt to learning to make my guess and try to guess faster and impose my game plan early, which is the intended playstyle of Season 2. That's not the Tekken I want to improve at. Basically, in the event that they do make adjustments to the patch, I would like to be able to play these super layered mind games. I would like to be able to play them quickly. I would like to be able to adjust. If I were to learn the Season 2 style, it would be a pretty hard commitment, and it would be pretty hard to go back, right? Once I have learned this way, I would have to spend time unlearning it as well. So, for that reason, I'm not going to be focusing on competing in Season 2. I hope this illuminated why a lot of veterans are frustrated. I hope that changes are made to Season 2. And that's about it. If you enjoyed this, please let me know in the comments. Please leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.